much was it, Don?
It's
1,200.
1,200.
I don't know why I was thinking it was supposed to be $2,500 a year.
Yeah. That might be the easiest, just to,
Pay out of general
and then we'll just reimburse us when we do the August meeting. Unless that's gonna, that shouldn't cause an audit problem, should it?
I don't think so.
Well, my only thing would be that we didn't publicize a public building commission meeting, so that might be the best way to do it, is just do it like we did that other bill, pay out of county general and reimburse it. Okay, you ready, Don? I'll call the meeting to order. We take a look at the minutes. Do you have an agenda?
There it is.
I'm sorry. I didn't see it.
I did leave you minutes.
Yeah, you do.
On the minutes, there is no listing of the bridges that I called to the attention of the commission.
Alan, you wanted to say something, a specific bridge?
Wasn't that the week before?
There was something in there about bridges, I thought.
No, I brought up both bridges in my...
I thought it was the week before. I got it in the week before.
Are you talking about the end, Alexis?
Yep.
Where it says see the commissioners prioritize the projects that...
Yeah, but the
Contract
bridges in my,
engineer.
I asked him if he had any bridges in District 2 and he said no. I asked Aljo Wallace if he had any bridges that he would like to see addressed in District 2 and he said not at this time, I think verbatim. And I had listed the two on the west end there.
I don't know if that needs to be included in the...
Yeah, it absolutely does need to be included because we had someone come to the commission and address it with a letter, and I have brought it before the commission now twice.
And I believe the engineer's gonna be here today,
That doesn't matter, it's something that I brought before the board.
so we're gonna talk about bridges, I'm sure.
67. and 65.
I don't have a problem including the bridge numbers that were talked about.
Is there other correspondence? Did you all get a copy of this letter?
Yes, I did.
Are you going to read it?
I'm not going to read it. You can read it if you want to, but
Well, I don't know. I mean, are we reading something that's sent anonymously, or
I
if
wouldn't.
someone had the guts to attach their name to anything, I'd be happy to read it. But that's
I would-
pretty.
I would concur with that.
Yeah.
Is that what was laying on Travis's desk?
What's that?
Is that what was laying on your desk?
Yes. There was an envelope addressed to each one of us.
Is there a letter to you, or is it the same letter to me?
No, I think we all got the 3 envelopes here on the table. I think it's probably the same thing you got. I just glanced at it and then I put it away.
Yeah, it's to me. I mean, I'd be happy, if you want to read it, you can read it, or I'd be happy to read it if someone actually put their name to it, but that's kind of cowardly to address me in a letter and not even write your own name.
Occasionally we will get
Hate mail.
someone leave us a letter. Usually they sign it though. We take care of this Gilmore and Bell bill here. I think the thing to do is pay it out of county general and then reimburse county general when we have the next public building commission meeting. Because we didn't publicize the public building commission meeting, I'd entertain motion, pay the bill $1,200 for handling the documents and the paperwork on the bonds for the hospital. It's a yearly.
Is that because we are not capable of doing that internally?
Yes, they specialize in bond legalities and stuff. They're the ones that did the whole bond issue, and there's a lot of paperwork that has to be filed with it all every year, I believe, or every quarter. I can't remember which it is now.
I think we signed a contract when we did that, but we could do it for 5 years.
Yeah. I think they changed, it went in when they redid the bonds again. I would move to pay Gilmore and Bell $1,200 out of county general to be reimbursed out of public building commission funds. Do I have a second?
One second.
Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. We also have a letter from Campbell and Johnson. We have a billing for work completed by street in the amount of $78,767.66. The first installment, I believe. And the architects have signed off on the work being completed. If we want to, we can wait till Eric's gonna be here, if you wanna wait till he gets here. Or we can go ahead and pay it now. He signed off on it being completed, so.
How are you planning on doing that? Taking a lump sum from the web fund and transferring it to the nursing home fund? Or making several payments out of the web fund?
I think that's the best to do because we don't have, it could change again.
I move we
No, we
pay
take any more
$78,000 out of the web fund for work done on the nursing home.
Have a motion on the floor, do we have a second? I will second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Nay.
I don't see any place on here where it needs to be signed on.
No, I don't think you have to.
We haven't done the minutes.
What's that?
We didn't finish the minutes.
Oh, we didn't?
No.
Oh, we did not finish the minutes. Did we have a motion to approve? Did you include the numbers of those bridges, Don?
I put in after assist with semicolon OS 65 and OS 67.
Okay.
Semicolon capital improvement plan, semicolon and so forth.
I move we approve as correct.
Have a motion on the floor, do I have a second? I will second. Is there any further discussion?
Could you please read the new paragraph that was edited?
Commissioner Flute discussed the following topics, would like to see that commissioners prioritize the projects that the contracted engineer will assist with, semicolon OS 65 and OS 67, semicolon capital improvement plan, semicolon and solid waste disposal fees.
Okay, yeah. It should definitely add that the response to my question, if we had any further bridges to discuss, was no.
I think the discussion was that we'd discuss them when the engineer got here, so.
No, he just simply said no. He said not at this time.
I believe that's because he wanted to hear what the engineer had to say before he started recommending bridges to be rebuilt. There's no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
John Paul, you're on the agenda here, I believe.
I was asked to be here.
Well, I guess we don't need to have a discussion since you guys were talking this morning, so you can maybe fill me in on what your discussion was about.
Sure. He was asking about if I knew when they did all the drainage work, if they pointed the stone while they had it uncovered. And then we discussed the fact that back in, I believe, the 80s, the building was sandblasted and sealed. And that was about all the topics I think we really covered.
Pertinent to this, I did ask about if they'd been to Clay Center, to their courthouse, and if they'd seen their heating system up there, and talked to the maintenance man up there. They had boiler heat 5 years ago, they switched that out. Also talked about to a Mitsubishi reverse refrigeration type system. Each room has their own heating and cooling with their own thermostats. And he said they were glad they did, because their boiler was given a fritz, and they haven't for the last 5 years had any maintenance issues.
Is there a cost effectiveness? Like, how long is it gonna take to pay for itself in
Well,
the efficiency?
Their county has a 1 mil levy for their building, so they took out a loan and their 1 mil levy for maintenance.
But I'm saying if there was an efficiency increase in the expense that it costs to heat the building, the savings.
That I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I doubt if it would.
But he did say it'd be well worth somebody or a commissioner's while to go up and, look at their system over. I also related, not only do we have problems outside, but we also have problems inside, especially if we were to finally tear these walls off, that it all needs to be tough. All the rock does. There's places you can put a tape measure in 9 inches into the wall, and that's a 2-foot wall, so concrete thrown on, and that's all wearing off. The sand's running out of the walls. You've got sand down along the walls here because it's probably all coming loose. So.
It deteriorated to the extent in those offices that we made the decision to go back to stone.
I think we can add his concerns to the grant request, though.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the need for immediacy and attention.
It turned out pretty well in there.
And then I guess I was asked to discuss the sidewalks and salt issue, sand issue. I don't use rock salt. I use what's called a Ecothaw, and it's an organic type salt slash beet juice. It's good for the concrete, it's good for the lawn, it's good for the animals. There's like 30 bags of it out there in the shed. I talked to the maintenance guy up in Clay Center. He uses what's called Power Thaw, which I looked that up online. And its ingredients is calcium chloride and magnesium chloride, which are the stuff to use. You know, you shouldn't use rock salt. You shouldn't use potassium chloride. I did talk to a guy in Stone Forensics in Florida, Palm Bay, Florida, which goes about and forensics rocks and stuff that's buildings and marble and everything else. I asked him about Ecothaw. He said he'd heard of that. It was good stuff. I mean, with any salt, I mean, when it comes to the limestone or whatever, you know, and the salt we use is a very low maintenance. In other words, you don't need to throw like rock salt, tons of it out there. And then, but you know, with any salt, you have to regulate. You put it on the ice, get it done, and then, you know, make sure it stays off the stuff that's on there. But, you know, some of the problems we have can be created on the outside, can be created just by, and I had an article about, from Kelly from the Historical Society, that salt can be airborne, so just from the salt in the streets, or we have fertilizer that's sprayed, you know, it can interact with stuff. Some of our stuff is, it's 100 years old building, and now sand is a, now like today, it caught me unaware. I didn't know we had a storm coming until last night about 10 o'clock. Until about 9 o'clock, I heard it tinking off the window and I walked out there. And so I was there at 4:15, and I have tried some new stuff I'd purchased. It was a liquid, it's called liquid fire, which is made up of the kind of the good stuff, and sprayed that on, and then used a little salt. And I was going to try a homemade recipe with Dawn soap and some alcohol, which is on YouTube, would seem to work pretty good, just for the steps. But I never got that to use. Well, I did throw some on my windshield of my vehicle this morning, and that worked pretty good to clean it off and get here. And that was a mix of my wife's and Dawn and vinegar, because she uses that to wash her dishes with. So I squirted that, some warm water, threw it out on my windshield. It was cleaned off. So.
I wonder if the State Historical Society would have a recommendation on.
Well, I mean, some of the information I do have, you know, is from them, and it just, you just got to watch how you put it on and don't overload it, you know, clean it up. And like I said before, when we talked about once we do get it fixed, seal it, that'll help a lot. And then, like the last couple of years, I hardly have used any. And when it comes to snow, I clean it all off. The sun comes out. You know, I know you're from Pennsylvania. I was 20 years in North Dakota. Snow stayed on the year round up there. Sometimes we drove on roads that never did clean off, and they put sand, they put salt, and next thing you know, we're driving on potholes in the ice. But here, you know, it's like you clean it off, and the sun comes out. Like today, it'll probably burn it right off. The other last snow we had, I took a bush broom the whole thing. By the afternoon, it was all cleaned up. There's a couple times I've taken the snowblower and set it down here, because we're supposed to get 6 to 8 inches of snow. Well, you know how weather fickle is. I never even had to use it. I just drove it right back and parked it. And I like to shovel. I need the exercise, so a couple inches of snow. I just clean. Once it's cleaned off, sun comes out, burns it off.
Do we have a blower?
Snow blower? Yes.
I mean, a blower, blow grass and stuff off the sidewalk?
We do, and when I came here, I couldn't get it going. It's still sitting out there. It's a gas-powered one.
Yeah.
That I can never get it
I
done.
wonder if that wouldn't be the thing to try to blow the salt off, or the ice melt off after you put it on, after it dries. I think, you know, when we go into starting looking at rebuilding those, we're probably gonna look at some kind of a heat map.
And then another thing too, you know, after the end of the season, get out there with a hose, wash it off. You know, because some of that does leave residual, and it helps keep the ice off. Usually, you know, see, and this year I've been kind of bad at it, but usually the year when we got those outside mats out, usually when I know there's a snowstorm coming, I pull the mats in off there so they don't get snowed on. Well, I've missed it the last few times, but, and then now all I do is go clean it off, throw the mats back out, and they're all clean. But like I say, this one caught me. I didn't even know it was coming. The last snow kind of caught me. In fact, one Sunday afternoon after church, in my suit clothes, my wife sat out in the van, and I came out and swept off the front because I knew it would burn off right away, and it did. Of course, then the next day it snowed again. But
Yeah, the back steps are the ones that never get any sunshine.
that's right now. Getting out of this time of year, it'll get some, but December and November, early January, it don't hardly get anything. But so, and sand it could be a tool, especially if you know it's going to be like 2 inches of ice or an inch of ice. Maybe to pre-put it down, or we get hit unaware and put it down on there just for the sake. But then we've got the cleanup afterwards.
Well, I think we just need to do the best we can, try to get it off there when it melts. And I don't know.
And I will look at other things, other tools, other, you know, stuff that these guys want to try to push on me and check and see what it is. And who knows, maybe Dawn soap and alcohol and vinegar might be the answer, you know, for the steps, you know. Pour it on there just to get that off, and then it's good. You know, sidewalks isn't too bad because that's not up against the building, but you just got to get enough so people don't slip, and then once the sun comes out, we're good to go. So.
We'll keep doing some research there and see.
Well, I talked to a couple quarries here, all the way to Wamego, was talking to different people, and like I said, I talked to the guy, the forensic guy down in Florida, and talked to the guy over there, been in contact with the Historical Society through Kelly Larson, and I'll continue to nitpick and get what kind of nuggets I can get to make my job better.
Does that blower look like, I mean, is it a piece of equipment that would be cost effective to have it worked on, or do we just need to replace it? Is it a steel, or do you know what brand it is?
I don't know what brand it is. I tried to get it to start one day, you know, just to like blow leaves and garbage off the sidewalks.
I thought we had one, I didn't realize it wasn't working.
Most of the time when it comes to clean out the sidewalk in the summertime, once the, you know, grass gets on there, I just ride the sidewalk with the mower and blow it off real fast. So same way when I do trim the sidewalks and it gets stuff on there, I just go get the mower out and right down the mower and blow it all off with the mower. So.
I'll try to get with you and look at it sometime and see if it's something that, you know, if it's a quality piece.
It would be handy on a light snow too, blow it snow off too.
Yeah.
You know, just blow a light snow off. Save you from having to do a lot of brooming, I guess.
I'll try to get with you and we'll look at it, because I think we need one. I mean, it blows grass off the sidewalks and everything else. I mean, I think it'd work good for getting us all those steps too.
Any questions?
I think we just wanted to emphasize the importance of it after talking to the Historical Society a couple of times. And maybe you can call them and just be in contact with them and see if they have any specific recommendations, or more importantly, if they have any restrictions as far as they're going to be giving us a grant. You know, you cannot do this or that. That would probably be important.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, John Paul. Eric, we're a few minutes ahead, but if you want to come on in, we approved payment of the street this morning.
All right, thank you. About your building, just a heads up, if you're going in for a grant, don't mention ceiling, like stone, because
We do
that's a
know
big
that.
no-no.
We talked about how there's caulking on the steps, and that's part of the erosion problem,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Their philosophy is that it traps moisture inside the stone and causes a problem. And they could be correct in that. they want the stone to breathe and get rid of the moisture the natural way. The sand that you're seeing at the base of the walls is because of the mortar is a lime-based mortar, and the moisture will pull the lime out of that mortar, and then you got less sand. So,
Well, they came in and paneled everything way
Yeah,
back when, which was probably something they shouldn't have done because that seals moisture in to a certain extent.
and when they go to do tuck pointing, make sure they don't use a Portland cement, that they use a mortar cement, because Portland cement is harder than the stone, and so your stone will start tearing up.
All the stonework we've done, the state has a formula.
Yeah.
And we've always used the state formula, even on our stone arch bridges we require it.
And like you said, they'll help you in many ways on salt removal and that kind of stuff, because they're aware of what we're doing, what we're facing out here, so they do that. The reason for my attendance here, and I don't mean to keep doing this, but we keep discovering things under the flooring. What they discovered, and they're in a big hurry there, say they're holding things up until they make this decision, but in the dining room, if you remember, there was a stage that was in that part that juts out on the north. That was a wood stage, so we told them to remove it. Well, underneath of it was a stone, and not a stone, a brick and concrete stage. It was quite a bit smaller. In fact, it's only about that deep. That needs to be removed, and so we got a price from them to take it out and pour a slab level with the dining room floor back in there, and then we'll have a baseboard. Hopefully it will cover the raw edges in that area. So we got a price of $1,700+ to do that, remove that brick and concrete stage and replace it with concrete. And then we, when we were taking up the floors, we started pulling the toilets, obviously, and the rings around the toilets are almost gone. And we were going to try to salvage some of them, and they're just not worth it. So and you're probably aware of this, that ring, you're going to have to chip out some concrete around it to get down below it so you can pull the ring off and put a new ring on, and then you pour concrete back around it. So we've got 6 cleanouts, the same thing with the cleanouts, they're all rusted out, and 10 toilet rings that need to be replaced. So I have a change order here for an amount of $4,000 and $4,070.15. No additional days. They're still sticking to the contract days.
That's pretty common.
Yeah,
Are they,
you know,
are they copper or brass, or what are they? Probably brass.
brass. And
The alkali or something in the
basic,
cement.
yeah, exactly. Basically, that wax is the only thing that's holding things from getting really bad.
Yeah.
And so I think that'll clean things up, and we'll have a nice seal there for no more odor leaking from the toilets and things like that. There is some things that they are wanting to, that the staff is wanting to be done there, that I'm going to meet with them and go over, that's outside of this, that I'll come back and talk to you about. It has to do with wall covering, and there's an old common bathing area that they've stopped using as that, and they've had using storage for their carts and things like that. That has a tub in there, and they're just saying, let's get rid of the tub, clean out that room, and we can have more storage. I'm gonna go check after our meeting here and find out more about that, and then I'll bring that to you if I think it's a viable thing to do, so. So that's what I've got to present this morning. They're moving fast up there. I don't know if you've been up there, but the flooring's looking really good. The custodian is it's hard at work trying to stay ahead of them.
I think they're painting
painting
up there
the
Sunday.
walls.
I saw them up there Sunday.
He's finding, he was telling me he thought he could knock out a room in the morning. Well, I think he's finding it's a little longer than that to do that, so. But other than that, they're really jumping on and moving things. When the weather gets a little better, they'll be back outside working on the electrical and the plumbing issues, so, or mechanical issues. So that's kind of an update of what's going on up there. If you have any questions about what they're doing or what their future plans are, let me know, and I'll be glad to address them with you. So, so with that, I'll just hand that to you. You said you did approve the pay request?
Yes.
Okay. I'll tell them when I go up there. I left quite a bit early just because the roads, they're bad.
Are they?
The further east you go, the worse they are. Yeah. That 8118 junction is pretty bad. Almost all the ice. But the nice thing about whoever maintains your highway, 18 is usually pretty good. They get on it pretty quick.
I worked with some Salina and she decided to stay home today.
So, the total change order was the 4,000.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
there's three exact copies there.
Yeah.
Oh, those are the same.
And
Okay.
what we do is just, we sign all three of them and then everybody has an original copy.
Yeah, I thought you meant the toilets was 4,000 and the stage was another 1,700, but it's
It's a total, I'm
a
sorry.
total, yeah, okay.
Total 4,000.
We change orders 6 and 7.
Well, their change orders are PCOs, proposed
Okay.
change orders.
Okay.
So those numbers are different than, if you look at the top of
I
that
was
sheet,
gonna say we skipped some
Yeah.
somewhere along the line.
top of that sheet, it says 3.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they send them to me, I review them, some of them I reject, some of them I bring to you.
I'd move we approve change order number 3, total amount of $4,070.50 in addition.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? I'll second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Nate?
Oh, how many you want signed?
You just want
All
chair-
of them, you sign all of them,
Just
then
the
I'll,
chairman.
Yeah, you just.
I'll sign all of them, and then I'll get the contractor to sign all of them, and then we'll send the original back to you, original to the contractor.
I will need a copy before you leave, because the last time you got
Yeah.
away with it, and I just barely got it to make sure that we knew.
I'll run up and have a copy made, and leave with you. But you'll get a fully executed copy after I get the contractor's signature. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Eric.
Anything else I can address
one thing we do, is, Jess Meyer and Robert Thompson caught me the other day, and they wanted to make sure we were gonna go on that deal because they were getting pushed to get stuff ordered by the contractor to complete that service deal. And I told them that we talked about it. I didn't think that we had an issue with doing it, it was the cost of it.
Yeah.
And he assured me that the cost was very reasonable, which I'm sure that's correct, but
It's whether or not it's being paid up front
Yeah.
by us versus allocated on the bills, which you told us is typical to have it on the
Well,
bill.
I've never experienced it up front. I'll put
Right,
it that way.
right.
But.
do you
know,
work
this
with
is-
city, do you work with city power very much, or do you work mainly with
No.
KP&L and?
Yeah, mainly with utility companies. And that's what I was gonna get
That's
to.
probably the difference.
They have deeper pockets.
Yeah.
And they can,
Spread it out over a lot more
Right.
customers.
you know, looking back at it, I can see why they would do it. It just caught me by surprise.
So I see that we have these other bills here from things that they're doing, painting, getting new receptacle covers, the paint, some of this other stuff. But what they also turned in, where are we at here? They turned in the labor and parts for the washing machines, but we don't own those.
Yeah, we do.
No, it was specifically said by John Grace that Kristen purchased those, and he thought that should have been our responsibility. Remember that conversation?
I don't,
I don't know.
if he said that, he's incorrect, because we
Yeah.
own the washing machines, the big machines.
So then
Those have
why?
always been ours.
I don't know what he,
Well, that was
I
one of
don't
the
remember
that
him
was one
talking
of the
about
write-offs
washing
that she turned in to say that she had put her own expenses into the building. That was one of the things that she listed that she purchased. The lawnmower, the washing machines, there were several other things.
I don't know unless they have a washing machine over in assisted living or something, but I'm sure she didn't purchase any big commercial washing machines.
Because we've been babying them along.
Yeah, there's one downstairs that
I was thinking there was.
they used for the residents, and I don't know who owns it.
When did we purchase these?
The washing machines, they've been there forever, but I don't know, how old the current ones are, but we've always paid for the big washing machines. Is that from
Midwest Laundry.
Yeah.
Midwest?
One of those is a credit, I think. A warranty deal.
I'm
They billed us and then we got a credit.
positive they're on our inventory. I don't think I can access the inventory down here.
Well, that was one of the discussions that we were having because I had said to him, anything that a tenant uses inside of a building isn't necessarily supplied by the landlord. I would like, anyhow, as a follow-up to that, I would like to know if we own them or not, because I don't think we should be maintaining them if they're, surely if they're not owned by us. And then this Kansas gas service bill, what is this for?
That was that line that they found that was leaking on the outside, plastic line, they had to come in and weld it.
I think the original bid, somebody had said down here was like 3,000 and something. Remember if Greg said that or?
Yeah, Greg told us about it, that the gas service company was gonna have to come in and repair a plastic line that run into the building. And
But why is the bill labeled to them?
It's supposed to be to us, and they were supposed to email it, because Cleo had asked me for our email address, because we own the property. I don't know why, and if you notice, it's even Mid-America,
That's
which
why,
is like 3
that's what I'm
businesses
questioning.
over. But it's ours.
Yeah, when they were out there running the sewer line from the grease trap, they were digging in an area and they found a pipe that nobody even really knew was there, I don't think. And they followed that pipe to see where it went, and it was leaking. I believe it a fitting or something. That'd be welded anyhow. Oh, Eric, I think we're done with you, I think.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. I'll bring this up.
Thank you.
Brett, did you need to see us about something? We got a couple minutes in. We can sneak you in front of Deborah, I guess.
Where's the gallery today?
I don't know. Too slick, be my guess.
Well,
I would've stayed home, but if I had to come here, I'd have to go to work, so.
the mechanical issues continue with our ambulances. Most recently last night when the 2010 Unit 35 almost didn't make it to the interstate to an accident with 8 people involved. Running so poorly that they had to call Salina Fire Department out to do the transport out of milepost 229, which is the Lincoln Hill out there. It's like the Bermuda Triangle of the interstate, I guess. I don't know. We have our share of messes out there.
I think it ices over before everything else does, and they come flying in there 70 miles an hour.
That's a big, sneaks up on them. Anyway, there were some issues with that particular unit. I suppose it's been a month ago now. It started acting up in Shiloh, and Tommy lifted into Salina, and then ran fine on the way home. And I drove it the next day, it ran fine, and I ran calls with it since then, and it ran fine.
What
Last
number
night
is this?
I'm sorry.
What number is this?
35. I ran calls with it since then, and most recently as last Wednesday, and it ran fine. And last night well, I shouldn't say it ran fine. It has a miss in it, it needs to go to the shop, but I've been holding off on putting it in the shop because the other one's in the shop. So, 34, let's see, it tried to lay down on Brandon and Heather in Wichita a week ago. They limped it into Wichita, and then they barely got back out to the interstate and wouldn't really pull itself up the ramp. And then it ran fine on the way home. And when they tried to back it in, it wouldn't really back up the ramp into the shed down here. I already had an appointment with Keever to get it inspected for the annual inspection on Tuesday. So he took it on Tuesday, had it 5 days, and it can't get it to reproduce the issue that it was having. They drove it out of there Tuesday morning. It wouldn't really pull itself one up there. By the time he got in it was fine. So the continued issues with the 604s continue for us. We got to do something with it. It lays down on Wichita. Somebody's got to go get it, then get the crew, and then what you can do with the truck, you can get it fixed down there, get it to the Salina, you can have it, we got to do something. I'm at wit's end with them. I've done everything they've told me to do. If it's synthetic oil in them, I run diesel additive in them, change the oil every 5,000 miles like they tell me. I put filters in them every other oil change. I can tell you from experience up north, they almost continually have one in the shop, almost continually, and they have 3 of them.
Well, I know last week I was told that we had to turn down 3 transfers because
Yeah, I shut the transfers down last week, 5 days, because we're a 911 service and the emergency calls have to be our priority. There's 3 that I know about, and I don't know how, there could be others that I don't know about that they wouldn't have called on.
they told me Mitchell County came down and took one, and
Yeah.
Salina Fire
Yeah.
took one, and I can't remember who they said took
Well, I think
the other.
Live Touch did one, the transfer service out of Salina did one. But right now, 35 probably needs to go to High Plains Diesel, and they can't look at it till the end of this week or the first of next. So, as far as I'm concerned, the issues with 34, I guarantee you it's going to do it again. Keeper couldn't find anything. I guarantee you, as plain as I'm sitting here, it's gonna happen again. I hate to do any transfers and send it out of town on transfers. 34, we need to take 35 out of service till we can get it worked on. Personally, I think we need, it's time to get a new one. I did call Osage, who we got the last two from. They have a demonstrator coming down the line. It's still in production. It's a 2017 chassis, but it's got the 2018 Osage box on it, or it will have, as soon as I get it built. It's not even been, it's on the production line right now. And if there's good news in any of this, about $6,000 cheaper than we were in August for the one that they had then. Something about some 2017 chassis holdovers is the reason. They're $1,000 less on a trade-in because I guess, you know, $6,000 they'll give us on that 2006 for a trade-in. We were at 7 last August. I have the numbers here if you want to look at them. Back in August, I had the Danco guy price one, and he wouldn't even trade for old one. He'd help us sell it. Well, okay.
Purple Wave can help us sell.
Yeah, Purple Wave can help us sell it, yeah. I'm not sure that's not the way to go anyway. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it won't bring $6,000.
It won't, you say?
I don't think so.
The only thing.
You can go back and look through their history at the ones they've sold on their
I have
website.
not.
I could look at it. I guess my feeling is that, yeah, that's a lot of money, but I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna go down at the wrong time. one of these
Yeah,
days.
I don't
It's gonna
think
happen.
I think
It's
we
gonna-
gotta have two. We gotta have
gonna-
two dependable units at least.
You're
But
gonna
how
have-
much, what do we caught, what's the number?
169,950.
169, 170, huh?
Is this the
This
same
is-
one you showed us before?
Well, no, different truck.
Yeah, it's a different truck. Yeah, it's a six. How am I gonna explain this?
Same,
It's the same box,
Yeah.
same truck, only different. They sold that one we looked at before, but this one's a twin brother, twin sister, however you wanna look at that. Before they were 181, 250 on this one. Because this is a 17 chassis, there's some incentives, and
I think that other one was a show truck too, wasn't it?
it
didn't
was a
have all the
Dodge,
bells
yeah.
and whistles
This
on
is
it.
a Dodge, it's on a pickup chassis. And it has to come as diesel in the four-wheel drive.
Will they let it out?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. 2 to 3 weeks, he said.
You know, I don't know very much anymore, but if you get a code someplace and that thing's sitting on the side of the road,
Doesn't look good.
The only option is.
there is no fixing these things. It's continual. If there was a fix to it, it'd be different, but
If
it's
it was gonna
continual.
be fixed and be done with, it'd be different, but it's not. It just absolutely is not gonna happen. You know,
We spent, what, $4,000 putting 4 injectors in that one.
had a mechanic tell me here in town, said, well, if you let it warm up 2-3 minutes before you go out, you wouldn't have that much trouble. Okay, let's warm them up 2-3 minutes before we go out the door, and yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
On a transfer or something, that's possible, but on
Yeah.
one call, it's not possible, so.
And y'all know I work up there, and they get there, they start theirs every morning, warm them up to operating temperature, and obviously they cool down in a few hours, but it hasn't helped them. They got one in the shop right now, been in there 3 weeks, I can't figure out what's the matter with it. I don't know, I don't know the answer.
Problems are intermittent unless you get it to do it while
I'll
you're.
drive you nuts. I'm done with Ford. You can get a Ford with a new 6.7, I don't know.
You won't sell me one, not after those two. They did absolutely nothing to make it right.
It'd be different if we had one that was bought a little bit once in a while, but one that's both, and then one's got 60,000 on, the other's got 80,000 on. It's not like they're worn out, Yes, they have some idle time on them, but not that much.
I guess there's probably three ways we could go if we wanted to go. One would be wind, one would be capital improvement, and one would be a lease of some kind.
I've not explored a lease option because we talked about it before and didn't seem like it was something that would be an option, but.
You know,
I mean, it's
my
an
concern
option.
with the lease deal is you're gonna be paying more interest than you are if you take, and you're gonna get off the money that you're sitting on now.
Yeah,
Three times,
absolutely.
at least it's gonna
Absolutely.
cost you 3 times the interest that you're getting now. On the money
Absolutely.
you have sitting, so.
Where are we with finding a billing service?
You what?
Where are we with finding a billing service to your department? A billing service?
Oh, okay.
Where are we in that process?
That's Deborah's department. I don't really know. I've talked to her a little bit about it.
Well, it's your department.
Deb, the clerk's office handles the billing.
We're working on that. Dawn's working on getting some, like bids, some pricing from some companies. We're working on that.
See, when was the last one we bought?
2010.
2010, so,
The model, I can't
yeah,
say
okay.
exactly when we bought it. I
We
believe
were,
it's
we
been-
were rotating them every 5 years, weren't we?
We were.
Trying to, yeah.
They were cheaper back in those days.
Yeah, about 100,000.
I believe that one cost 150 something then.
Yeah, one of them was 130, I can't remember which one it was.
That. Well, I agree with Terry. Leasing it doesn't financially make sense when we have money, we can do it. My biggest problem is that we haven't laid back capital outlay to do that. But the cost of providing this service has gone up faster than we have appropriated money for it. That's when it comes down to it. I mean, that's what's happened. I mean, we have not levied enough money for this department, or we wouldn't be in this situation.
If we took it out of capital improvement, could we have a deal internally set up to where money would go back into capital improvement out of that fund? Dawn?
How much is in your own budget's capital outlay?
16,000.
Do you know?
What was the question?
How much is in your own budget's capital outlay?
I don't know. No, I don't think.
16,000.
I would almost say no to your question, just because,
It has to come from the general fund, right?
yes.
And their own transfer, or their own rollover at the end of the year goes to their own capital outlay.
Now, could you clear out what he has in his capital improvement, or his capital outlay fund, and then take the rest out of capital improvement? Yes, you can do that.
I think we need to do something. I would not see any way around it. It's gonna have a bad ending. I mean,
What are our other options? I mean, we've been given one quote. What are the other options?
The only other option was the other second quote that I got in August. And I did not contact them this time. The gentleman I was dealing with, I did contact them. The gentleman I was dealing with is since retired, so it would be a new salesman.
and Dan Zachgo's built back in, where the hell is it?
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
I mean, these are out of St. Louis, Missouri. There are no other places to search for options other than St.
There
Louis.
are plenty of places. Can you get them to price anything? No. I contacted Rocky Mountain Emergency Vehicles in Denver. They wouldn't even give me a price. I contacted a company called Braun, and they wouldn't even give me a price. Wheel Coach would not give me a price. This was in August. I didn't call anybody but this Osage this time because I knew, well, I didn't know. I just called him just to say what you got that's available today. And because he historically has had some demonstrator models that were available.
What are the years of the ones that we have now?
06 and the 2010. And one of the still was a 2000 model GMC.
Which one's the 06, 34 or 35?
34.
The last two we bought from Osage, and we've had, I think, both of them have had to go back down there, body damage, and they've always given us
The one's been done there twice, it's been in accidents twice, and had to go back. And that's the thing about having the factory close, it's close enough I can go back there and get repaired.
It's a huge advantage.
Yeah. Having it in New Jersey.
Get something to New Jersey to get it repaired.
No. You know,
We used to run Wheel Coach, something like
Yeah.
that. They were in Hutchinson.
yeah, they were
They
interested.
went to
It was
Florida.
Collins, and then Wheel Coach bought them out, and now it's all closed up. It's in Florida now.
Yeah.
That Osage is pretty popular. I know the last several slaughter fires bought for Osage. It's because of the close proximity. And this guy wants to sell them. He'll get right back to you. You know, and the rest of those, I don't know what they do, but I suppose they deal with bigger services that buy one every year, a couple times a year or whatever. Buy 10 at a time or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what they do.
Don, do we need to take all that money out of capital outlay for the purchase of that, or could we use part of it and draw from capital improvement or from web?
That's up to you.
I don't know if we want to take every penny of it pretty early in the year.
Well, it says the quote's good for a month, so we don't have to do this today.
If someone else doesn't buy it.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. And then you're waiting 200 days on the building one.
That's the problem. Somebody could be on the phone with them right now buying it. I'm sure we're not the only ones who's offered it to.
No, nationwide they offer,
I just have a hard time believing that for this price, no one else is gonna give you a quote from any other company.
They're selling so many of them, they don't.
I don't know if I'm getting that Danko guy. I argued with him probably 6 weeks getting the, well, you can see the dates. You can see the dates on the quotes. One was in July from Osage, and it took the Danko guy till August something to.
August 16th. A month longer to get a quote out of him than it did the other people.
If I call that Kyle, I'll quote this afternoon at Osage. Be a little different if we were spec'ing one that was a custom build. But
I think we need to do it. It's considerably cheaper than the last quote.
I'd move we purchase a 2018 Osage Type 1 demonstrator for $169,950, drawing $10,000 from the capital outlay fund and the rest from the capital improvement plan fund at the present, I guess.
We have a motion on the floor, do I have a second? I'll second. Is there any further discussion?
I would agree with the funds from which you're proposing it be drawn, but I would suggest that we don't make a habit of someone presenting a $170,000 purchase and us making the decision within 20 minutes.
Well, I think he was back in here a few months ago with the same proposal.
And we told him no, and nothing has changed financially, so it
No,
just
but
doesn't
there's
seem
been a lot of
prudent.
change with the ambulances.
I'm just having a hard time believing that there's not a way to get any other contact with any other companies.
If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Abstain.
I'm calling, tell them to go.
Yes.
Go.
Good enough, thank you. Anything else?
Time we want it here by tonight.
I'm sorry.
We want it by tonight. Tonight,
Tonight, yeah.
delivered tonight.
Wouldn't that be nice? Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Brett.
Yep.
Let us know how you get that other one in the shop, see if they can.
He can't look at it till end of this week, first of next, so I'll probably need some help getting it down there. I'll call you.
Okay.
Maybe we can
Yeah.
shuffle it down there sometime.
Friday I'm tied up, but
I'm-
well, I could later in the afternoon on Friday.
I'll wait till I hear from him and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Do you mind if we take those guys, Deborah? Are you in a big hurry? Or are you gonna take a little while, or you
No,
quick?
I will be fast.
Okay,
And then you can have all the time with them that you want, if you want.
that's fine. I didn't know what you were in
I
about,
just,
so.
two things, I keep meaning to ask, when we did cost of living, was it your intention to also increase the starting wage by an equal amount?
I think that's what we have been doing.
That's what you have in the past, but I normally ask, and I had kind of forgotten. And I thought it would be a good conversation to have.
That would be my opinion.
I assumed that. I just assumed you upped everything 50 cents.
I was going to, but then I decided I shouldn't just do that, and I just want to make sure we had a conversation, make sure that was what the board's intention was. So that's a yes.
I would say so. That's what we've always done, as
Okay,
far as I
just-
remember.
Just making sure. And then, had you guys had enough time to think about, the company that came last week about the post-offer testing? Is that something that we want to consider?
I think we ought to try it.
I can contact
Yeah,
them and
good.
get some more information and see what steps we would need to take next. It's not like we have to do it tomorrow, but kind of get the ball going.
How many jobs do we have listed currently?
2, I know.
Listed
2 law
Currently,
enforcement.
open.
current jobs listed.
Um, They're looking for a full-time truck driver, jailer, deputy. And I think they hope to maybe find another part-time dispatcher. They always seem to,
And those are both jobs that we would do the screening, so I
all
would
three,
say,
the three full-time ones would be yes.
they're both departments I meant.
Mhm.
So I would suggest we implement it
Okay.
now as
As
far
soon
as,
as we can,
as
okay.
far as pre-employment screening.
Okay,
But
well, that was gonna be my next question. Do we wanna just initially start with the post-offer pre-employment
Oh,
and then
yeah.
kind
I
of go
think
from
so.
there? He had made some suggestions. He said that some employers do, return to duty, some do baseline testing on all their employees. Do we just wanna maybe just go ahead and start out with the post offer
I think if we
pre-employment?
I think
start with the post offer, that'd be a great place to
And then we
start.
can start
See
there.
But I
how,
do
see how it
think-
works and,
It would be necessary to progress to a baseline testing, especially in a position where you may have an injury. I mean, that's key to knowing where we stand as far as liability. We've had several conversations in here about liability. That's one of the main ones.
I did contact and sent an email to K-Camp to help us maybe get a policy, because if we're gonna do it, we should have some kind of policy as to what ones, do we want to stick with, as they had suggested, just the ones that were physically demanding? Start with that for right now, and then if we decide to go all positions, we can do that down the road. Okay, that was it?
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Deborah. Okay, Michael, you guys are up, I guess.
How you doing?
Pretty
Good.
good.
Tanner Yost.
Tanner.
Tanner Yost, yeah. Hi, Tanner Yost.
Several grant agreements here for your approval.
We have one here that's got a 2018 date on it too. It needs to be 2019.
Okay. Need to visit with that pit owner.
Yeah. But I probably didn't think about it being 30 days from now. Why don't we go ahead with what else you wanna talk about, and we can do these gravel agreements.
That's fine. And also provided you what we had for yardage in 2017 and from what pits.
So is the block pit now closed?
It is not closed, but there is
No material.
No.
is there?
much of anything for material to be got there.
Are we in the same situation with any of these on this list?
As far as being out of gravel, I don't believe we are on any of those, are we, Bob?
Murray's Red Rock, right?
Yes.
Murray's Red Rock,
Whackers.
Whackers Red Rock, and Ulm is sand.
Do we have any stockpile yet at Whackers or? is it
Yes,
gone?
there is some at Whackers. And it'll probably get used up this year on Elk Drive.
And out of this 5,037 tons purchased from APAC, what do we have stockpiled?
It's probably close to half of it.
Half of it?
Outside of that, we're progressing on the OS 87 bridge stuff. We got Kirkham working on the right-of-way acquisition, and if there's any utilities to be relocated, and I don't believe there was. Get that taken care of, and then we're still waiting on KDOT for high-risk rural roads, when it's gonna get started and everything, get a pre-conference put together, a pre-construction conference.
When we submitted the last application that was signed 1 month or 2 ago, they haven't announced who got selected or anything on that. And the 87 office check, or the office, the plans are gonna get submitted to KDOT for the office check on 87, probably this week. And then they go and review it for all their standards and all that stuff. So, moving along on that stuff.
Michael, did you bring us the list of bridges that we asked for a few weeks ago?
We don't have that completed yet, did we, Bob?
What's that?
The bridge list?
Not completely, we got some, but we don't have it all completed.
Well, I mean, just, we were talking about, you know, the top of the list. It doesn't have to be every last bridge in the county, obviously, but what you had considered at the top 10, you know, something like that.
Yeah, kinda got, like I say, a list of bridges, but we really haven't gone through and kinda tried to sort them out, what's the top priority and stuff. Kinda know, but still, things can change too pretty quick on them, so.
When were you guys gonna bring that list in?
You gotta consult with Tanner on it.
Yeah, we've been talking a little this morning about some of it here, what we can do with some of them and how to handle some of them, so.
So maybe next week?
So, like I said, we'll work with Tanner here and see what we come up with here.
So we can look for it next week.
We'll see.
As
what-
far as the list, probably can, I don't think we'll have all the necessary costs associated put together on that yet.
That makes sense. Was anyone able to relay to you, or did you get to see the letter that was presented at the commission? I think you weren't here that week. I don't think anyone from the highway department was here that week, and then maybe again the following week. But, Dawn, you might have to help me if the number, is it 67?
5
No.
I think it was 65.
67. We were talking about the one in Swing River at 67.
Yes.
The one on Elk Creek at 65.
Yeah. We had some concerns about Bridge 67, because it's repeatedly an issue every year. I'm sure you know better than I do what the issues are, but,
It's that first creek over the river from the dam.
Yeah.
and so basically
We
that's
were
the
talking about
first
this morning.
bridge that the water hits when they change the levels. So there's always a fluctuating rate of flow and height of water. And in the past, I don't know what you guys have done to make efforts to improve that, but the people that live there were saying basically, you know, more material is added along the bank side right up next to the bridge, and then it just washes away. So it's a repeat issue every year. And I don't know what we need to do to address that, but I would like to see some progress on the plan as far as what we're going to do, because we're coming into the season where we're going to be there. We're spending more resources going back every year
Right.
than just taking care of the problem.
So we looked at some pictures this morning. It looks like they drove some of the steel round piling, I guess, and then there's a back wall that's pretty much welded onto that keeps some of the dirt back, and it looks like it's rusted throughout the bottom. So every time it rains, it pulls some of the dirt and the road settles. So we were discussing maybe putting like a concrete collar around it, or sizing some riprap to put that in place. You don't want to put too small riprap, because then when they do let water out, I feel like it probably constricts a little bit, so your velocities are higher, so it may wash your riprap down. So I'm thinking, we were talking concrete or riprap. We haven't quite decided as far as, because concrete, to get in there and actually dig out like a form to pour that concrete, it sounds like there's always water there, so we may have to talk to the Corps. Is that who regulates?
Yeah.
And maybe have them close their gates for a week or two, and then we can get in there with a track hoe and make a form and pour like a concrete collar on each side. But those are some of the options we were kind of discussing this morning. I think we need if you want me, I can reach out maybe with the Corps and just send them an email and see if that's even possible, if they'd even do that.
Water height's gonna be a major factor.
Yeah. Yeah. Working around the weather.
Those dams originally were built for flood control, but they became recreation facilities because, you know, they could be drawing it down right now, but they won't draw it down because that's the boating and the recreation. So
Right. Keep
Is
it
there
up.
one day it'll start raining and it's gonna fill up and they're gonna have to release
And
tons
then
of
we'll all
water.
get washed away.
Yeah.
Is there any value in solidifying any of those banks with some larger rock, purchasing some
That's what he's talking about, riprap.
retaining wall?
Yeah. So, oh, you're actually talking like a retaining wall?
Well, not an act, but once you fix the wall that's rusted, or put a collar on it, whatever you're gonna do right there, I mean, is it worth going further to the west towards the water flow with some?
And lining the channel kind of.
Mm,
We can maybe drive out there and look at that. I've only seen without the bridge. It may be if there's some scour issues, yeah, you could probably.
Because what I'm understanding, and I mean, I've been out there, but what I'm understanding is the flow is creating this churning. And as that churning is happening, it's cutting out, and the actual flow and the where the banks are has been moving. So if we can't cut that back, I don't know that just fixing right up next to the edge of the bridge foundation is going to be a long-term solution either. That's my non-professional opinion, but
Really good.
I don't think
The
it's
bridge should have been
eroding on
longer
the-
and taller.
On the upstream side, it's not eroding, well, on upstream it is, but not around the bridge it isn't eroding that much.
well, yeah, that's what they came in and said. They were here just 2 weeks ago, and she read us a letter. We should really have gotten you a copy, and I apologize I didn't follow up on that. But basically,
Downstream it is, we were talking about that this morning, because it funnels all this water when they release that, forcing it through that bridge, so much more volume through it, that when it comes out, it's eroding downstream, but not upstream.
well, maybe I'm misremembering what she was saying. I mean, I haven't been out there since she was here, but I've been out on that bridge before. But regardless, the bridge itself, I think, what did I read? Maybe it said a 50% sufficiency rating, thank you, I think, is what I read on that. But just to prevent any further issues so we don't have to do a full replacement would be great.
Right. In that sufficiency rating, so there's a bunch of different condition ratings on that SINI. It's pretty much the form that's in the bridge file. And they've got a formula that calculates that, but it's based off of like the ADT and then so much percentage of those condition ratings is how they come up with that. And there's also a rating for stream or channel. So I'm curious on what that rating is. I don't know what it is. And that kind of is what, if that gets down to a lower rating, then it may be good to do some channel work. We looked at it this morning, but I can't remember what it was.
I think I have that. What is the code for the channel rating?
It's just, it's like 67, so we're 60.
That number won't be in.
It's
No.
not on, oh, it's not on here?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
gonna be on the SINA, and that's actually in the bridge file.
Okay.
So every time you do a bridge inspection, we gotta get into the KDOT web portal and fill all the new information.
Yeah,
for
this
the
just gives
inspection.
the sufficiency rating overall.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, so that's actually broken out into some condition ratings.
Right, like if it were to keep the ADT at that
Yeah.
rate for so long and,
So there's like a superstructure, so that being your main beams, there's a deck rating, there's substructure, which is your pile, your abutments, and then there's like a channel rating. So
and then
there's
they
like
take
4
the
or 5.
total.
Yeah, there's like it's pretty complicated, the state came up with this formula, and it's like so much percent of this one times the ADT, yeah, it's some formula, and that's how they come up with that sufficiency rating,
Okay.
so.
So since you've worked with other counties, I guess I was interested, once you got in here, what you could tell us about the planning process. Because since we have not been on the 5-year plan, utilizing more state funds, since they've been reduced to us, in the recent time that we're in as far as fund restrictions, we really don't have a plan in place. We've been talking about this for a year now, and I would like to see us prioritize based on practicality and based on need. So if you could maybe just give us a little bit of initial information on how we should start that process.
So you're wanting to put together like a plan, showing these are our funds, these are the projects we want to get accomplished each year, and then pretty much implement them. Some of the counties that I've worked with, their funds are fairly low, so they're only able to do 1 or 2 bridge projects a year. Some of the bigger counties, I live in McPherson County, I know they've got funds to do 5 or 6 bridge projects.
They got oil.
Yeah, so it kind of is how much money you guys have available.
Are you talking about replacements, or are you talking about they do that many replacements? Or
Yes,
just-
and then they've got some rehabs, so they kind of, okay, maybe rehab 2, replace 1, just kind of,
That's
you
probably-
put cost estimates for each one, you can figure out if you can do it with your budget. As far as plans, I know there's like the off-system bridge program and the high-risk road program where you can get money from the state. And I know Leland County applied for the high-risk road program and the off-system program. Off-system 87 is actually an off-system bridge program bridge. As far as plans, I personally don't really see counties putting together plans. They more, alright, these are the, I think you could start by prioritizing bridges, and maybe with your funds allotted to, and maybe just doing that. As far as putting together like a comprehensive plan,
I don't think we need to project it out into the future. I just think we need to have a foundational system by which we are categorizing. Because right now, we don't have that. The only things we have are the reports that your firm provides as far as what your inspections, and that doesn't necessarily have anything to do, and we actually learned that the ADT isn't even an actual number, it's an estimate based on whatever, so.
for off-system bridges. So the state comes out and they put counters at all the major collectors, like intersections. And so the FAS bridges, those are pretty hard numbers. The off-system bridges, those are pretty much estimated based off maybe the FAS routes, if there's people that live down it. So our inspector, when he's out there and he's on an off-system, he'll, when he's out there, you know, it'll say 40 vehicles a day, and he says, you know, he sees 10 trucks out there when he's out there for 30 minutes. He may bump it up a little bit, but those are kind of estimated ballpark.
Right.
Some counties have went out, and I know one of them I'd worked with, the ADT does play into the sufficiency rating, and in the off-system bridge program, they look at that sufficiency rating, and so we were trying to justify a higher ADT on an off-system bridge, which those are just kind of estimated. So they had a guy sit out in a truck and count traffic all day, and we took it from like a 50 ADT to 118, there's all local traffic. And so that was able to decrease our sufficiency rating in order, and so they were able to win the project. So.
Well, and I think that's kind of what we're looking at, you know, we've had a brief discussion about one bridge that's been brought to the table, but I have several in my area that people have been harping about, you know. So I need to be able to tell them, this one prioritizes over this one because. And, right, and we don't have an internal system to diagram that and say, you know, for example, the Bridge 65, which is just north of the one that you were looking at where the river comes out, that's the only throughway to get from one highway to the next for about a 10-mile span. So you know, to go north or south, you can't go west anywhere other than across that bridge. And it has deteriorated. It's still functional, but they reduced the weight on it.
Right.
And so if you're farming or if you're traveling through there, I mean, it can be a problem.
Right.
So.
And then that one's
It's a $700,000 bridge too.
Is that fracture critical one?
138.
The truss. Yeah.
Wait, which one are you talking about?
65. It's a 138 foot bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd
138 feet?
it'd be $700,000 to build.
At least. Yeah. I don't even think we could do it for that. Do you?
Yeah, it's probably, yeah, I'd be pushing it. Depends how bids come in. I would probably budget more, just to be on the high side.
See, that is a
Nothing
major controlling factor on what bridges do, is what funding you're gonna have.
Right, and now the fracture critical, so those are typically an off-system bridge program of priority. The state's trying to get rid of the fracture critical bridges. Because I know 87, that one's fracture critical, so it was selected. So that may be a good one for the next round, to maybe.
And that's what we've been doing, is systematically attacking these fracture criticals to get them off of our bridge list, and that way funds have opened up, once the fracture criticals are gone, to look at some that are non-fracture critical and use funds in that aspect.
How much in state funds were we approved for the AOS 87?
Oh boy, 600 and something?
It's like an 80-20 split.
And 600 was the total, or that was their 80%?
That was our, I think that was.
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
Total project cost was $652,000. Our estimated cost was going to be almost 131,000, so. I think in addition to that, there might be some additional engineering and right away, and some of that
Yeah.
that's not included in the
87 came in that high, 700 will never do 67, so 65.
I'm thinking 1.2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's $1
You
million
know,
bridge.
and we're looking at our expense of probably anywhere from 250 to 300 on it, kinda
Yeah.
what I was thinking, you know, without hard numbers, but it's kinda senseless to put hard numbers to something 3-4 years in advance, because what's inflation been running, almost 10% a year,
Probably construction costs would
Yeah,
surprise
I
me a
think-
bit.
you know, and it's sad but true, you know, every year you gotta wait on replacing something, the price goes up dramatically.
Right, so, I mean, if we're gonna talk about spending money that we have, we need to know where we're putting it and why we're spending it in the forefront instead of down the road. So we were having a discussion here about fracture criticals, and you were saying 87, okay, that is on that list. And there were, in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so there are 13 on the list. Are any of those closed?
Several of them are closed.
And so 87 is your current project. Which was the last one that you did?
145.
That's not on this list.
Because it was done.
No, this is the list of all the fracture criticals.
But once they're redone,
That was on the list we looked at this morning.
Yeah, on this one.
Yeah.
This but this
What
is
year?
2014. No, yeah, 2014.
is that the one up north?
145? That was the
Coleman.
Coleman Bridge.
Coleman Bridge, yeah.
It was a steel truss, so,
But it wasn't done before that bridge report was done.
no.
Do they have it backwards? They have OS 154. What's 154? Would it be that? Would that be backwards? 145.
I doubt it. There should be a 154 somewhere.
Well, they
also.
printed the date wrong. It says 2,104 instead of 2014. So maybe someone's got some dyslexia.
Yeah, we could look back and see when that was.
I'm just interested, if you're saying that the fracture critical bridges are gonna be a priority for the state to put money toward, then we need to look at those especially as a priority, because now they're all off system. So,
I think we've been prioritizing them ever since
Oh,
they,
yeah.
ever since they came up with the fracture criticals.
You know, we
You stand a better
submit
chance of getting
annually,
money.
but we only get approved luckily every 2 years.
Yeah, usually if you get one year, you won't get one the next. You might get one the next year. But it's always still good to apply on the next year, just to show that, you know, we want a project.
Just like the one year, the state approved 2 projects in 1 year.
Yep, you got to.
And they sent me an email 20 minutes later, no. We made a mistake.
And I was in the bridge inspector and refresher class in Salina a month ago, and they said they're gonna start looking at need on the fracture critical bridges. So I was kinda thinking maybe we can get like a literal support from like a local business or something to put in with the application. Just a thought. They said fracture critical need is what.
but we've already been approved for 87.
Yes.
So what we're looking at is how we're going to choose the next one that we're applying for. And we need to put that together. It doesn't matter if it's ahead of time or not, it's still something that needs to be done. And so then I think the next question, at least I had, was when we go out, how do we determine between our ability to fix one that's just in some disrepair that we're capable of doing, or maybe subbing out a portion of what needs done and internally doing the rest, versus, you know, a total replacement? Because the financial situation that we're in, it's not gonna be feasible to just find one and replace it every time. You know, if we can get an extra 10-year lifespan out of some of the material that's existing and spread that between 3 or 4 bridges as opposed to just taking one out and putting a new one in and leaving those other 3 deteriorate further, you know, we need to have some conversations about that.
Yeah, you can have an engineer come and look at it, give you some options, maybe some costs, and then it's if Michael and, feel comfortable doing the work themselves or what. But
It's gonna depend on the size of the
Right,
bridge, what
exactly.
we're capable
Right.
of our equipment and crew of doing. Well, like you was talking up there, 100 and some feet long, no, we can't do that. We're gonna be stuck with 40 foot or 60 foot, something like that at the most, with the equipment we have.
Well, you don't have the manpower to build that bridge. I mean, they're talking about a crew every day.
We're gonna have to concentrate more on trying to repair some of the smaller bridges that we can, and
yeah, which we
trying to build.
which we are. Michael had us run some hydraulics on a couple watershed structures that were below watershed. Back when they were built, the dam wasn't there, so now we're holding a lot more water, so the bridge is actually seeing a lot of it.
We got 2 bridges we can remove from our inventory and replace
Yeah.
with, what are they, less than 6-foot diameter
Yeah.
culverts. And both of the bridges are in disrepair, you know. If a structure was gonna go back there, it'd have to be replaced. They're not repairable, so.
And we have the pipe.
No, we don't have pipe on hand for those, no.
We sent that tank to Oklahoma though, and they put the
Yeah.
floors in it, haven't they?
Oh, yeah.
We
But
got
we'll
bill-
be able to use
we got
much
bill
smaller
on that.
structures than that.
Yeah.
You know, just 6-foot corrugated metal pipe or 60-inch corrugated metal pipe will be able to handle it.
That's a good idea.
Be able to widen the road back out very inexpensively and everything there, so.
Remove the bridges so you don't get paid to inspect them.
That's right.
Yeah.
They get costly.
So that's the old box bridge deals that we'll have to fix, bad repair. The pipe is probably gonna be an answer on them too. So do a little more studying on what we're gonna do with those too.
It's almost case by case, really.
Yeah. So the town is not gonna, we were talking this morning, help build this new bridge back here. If this little box or this little bridge back here is down and they can't get to that bridge, so we're gonna have to look down the road away to the sides of the main bridge too.
Do we have any other discussion on bridge topic?
I think once we see a list, we can have a better idea. So, the fracture critical bridges, could you maybe explain the definition there? Because
Yeah.
I've read it, but it basically says that it's the way that the structure is put together.
Yeah, you mind if I draw on, I'm pretty
Please,
visual. So,
please do.
So pretty much fracture critical means there's only 2 load carrying members. So this is kind of a standard one. There's pretty much 2 trusses on each side. And there's no internal redundancy. So it's like a steel beam bridge, you'll see multiple I-beams, and then you'll see like some cross bracing.
Uh-huh.
Well, see, there's internal redundancy, so when a vehicle travels over this beam, it transfers the load, or portions of the load, down to the bottom of these beams. So there's internal redundancy. So in this, there's none. So if this were to fail, the bridge is coming down. So that's what it means by fracture critical.
So a fracture critical bridge is always a fracture critical bridge unless you restructure it. It has nothing to do with the deterioration of the bridge. It's just the way that it's
Yeah,
built.
I would say that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, we're clear on that now.
It'll have some,
About the,
with the deterioration, though, will have some effect on it.
No, he's saying that the way that it's structured means that it's fracture critical. You don't become a fracture critical bridge.
You could build a brand new suspension cable bridge today and it will be classified as a fracture critical bridge from the day it's built.
Yeah, it just depends what the engineer designs and how it's built.
Well, true.
Yeah.
but they're called fracture critical, but when you go through the inspection stuff, then they're either, what, functionally obsolete or something else. They're
Yeah.
not called fracture critical in inspection parts. If they're, what's the other, another term for them?
There's functionally
Deficient.
obsolete and
Structurally
structurally
deficient.
Structurally deficient.
That's
yeah.
based off those condition ratings. So if the bridge meets like less than 3, then it becomes structurally deficient or functionally obsolete, depending on
What is the opposite of a fracture critical bridge? Is there a definition of that?
what. Oh, non-fracture critical?
Okay, so you have two types of bridges. You have fracture critical, you have non-fracture critical. The fracture critical, the definition is if one component fails, the entire thing may fail at that point, or will. So the structure of it makes it fracture critical. You don't become a fracture critical bridge just because if you're non-fracture critical, just your deterioration doesn't make you fracture critical at that point. So if your sufficiency rating goes lower, you don't fall into the category of fracture critical. That was the understanding here, and that's not what I read.
When did they invent the term fracture critical?
So there was
10 years ago,
probably 10. There was some bridge.
when the
that-
bridge went down in
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Yep, and it was fracture critical. So now the feds started implementing this fracture critical bridge inspection
But it all
program.
has to do with the construction components and the engineering of the bridge. You're saying you have two braces and you're spanning that brace. So if one's gone, there's nothing. If you have multiple bracings underneath, as you drew with the beams and the support crosses, then that it doesn't categorize the same. So they wouldn't be building bridges in that category now, because what you're saying is
they do build fracture critical.
They do, but I would never do it, but they do.
but he
But
just
there's
got
just
done.
some cases you can't get around.
Well,
it.
you're talking like a
Large-
suspension bridge or something like that is what you
It's-
said.
Yeah.
Which means if one component fails, then
Yes.
the rest of it's going to
Correct.
give. That's the definition of fracture critical. You don't become a fracture critical bridge
Correct.
over time. Well, there was a misunderstanding here because Terry was explaining to me that after all the years of him knowing about the bridges, that you can become a fracture critical bridge. And the way I read it was, this is the list of Lincoln County's fracture critical bridges, period.
But
You
they're-
don't get on the list.
But fracture criticals are still classified as structurally deficient or
Functionally obsolete.
functionally obsolete if you look in the bridge
Yes.
inspection bills. That's how they're
Even though it's
classified.
fracture critical, I believe all trusses that are in Lincoln County are not only functionally obsolete because they can't handle the wide loads that are necessary, but
But
several
that's
of them
just
fall under-
assessing each individual fracture critical bridge. You can have a brand new fracture critical bridge that doesn't say that it's obsolete. But yes, all of ours in Lincoln County that are 100 years old are going to fall into the category of being deficient or obsolete, something like that.
What causes them to be inspected?
They were good when they were built. They were classified that way.
Yes, they
But
are. Yes, they are. If they're
Well, at a
built,
certain point,
no,
but that beam rests away.
that
and
doesn't
that's
change
gonna
its
let it
classification
Go
though.
down.
This is the same conversation we were having. That doesn't change its classification just because it rusts. If it was built in such a way that it's spanning without any of that additional bracing, where if one piece fell off on the end, the rest of it is not going to collapse, then it's non-fracture critical. The fracture critical means that it's spanning in such a way that when one end's down, there's nothing else to hold on to, basically. You don't turn into that.
So
He's shaking his head yes because I'm just reading it out of the book.
Dawn had a question on what maintenance or requires something to get an annual inspection, and that becomes the discretion of the inspector and what he finds at the time of the inspection that may need looked at more often than once every 2 years.
Yeah, so there's a condition rating. Once any of the conditions ratings gets to like 3 or less, I believe, it's in the report, it becomes needing a yearly inspection. So that's why we have to do the annual inspections. They have a condition rating less than 3.
So this one is biennial. And does it, but the last one that we got that
Was it
said
Annual.
annual only had 3 bridges in it.
Yeah, so those are the 3 that had less.
So we only have 3 in the whole county that have to be looked at yearly.
Yes.
That's what, okay. So these would be the same 3 this year, unless you find something in your biennial
Or the,
that then you add it to this one.
right, right. Unless some condition factor on another bridge decreases less than 3, then it would be added.
Or if something's been repaired on those to get it above it.
Yes.
You can get it
or-
off of this
yep,
list.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Or KDOT changes some of the requirements.
But I don't know, were any of those fracture criticals? I think they were all,
I think all of our fracture criticals are 24 a month.
I don't
Well,
think any of these bridges on the annual were fracture critical.
I didn't look at it, so I better not.
1 in 559, oh, I'm sorry, there's 4, but the one is closed.
98, 59, and 105.
No,
105 is the one right out here, isn't it?
That's correct.
That's not fracture critical.
no, none of these are on that list. Unless 145 is backwards on here, 154.
One of them needs replace pile at the abutments. One of them's remove drift and clean paint stringers, and one of them is replace pile ASAP and repair 2 stringers. One oh five is all wood, isn't it?
Yes. Deteriorating.
Yeah, so you're gonna be fighting it for, until you replace it pretty much.
The other thing I thought we should talk about, you've got some good pictures here and just from this 2014 report, but the stone bridges, any of them that are foundationally stone or stone arch bridges or things like that, I understand that the total cost may not be something that we can afford, but I think that it would be prudent to go ahead and get some bids on someone who does that kind of work and look at the stone bridges that are high priority based on traffic and deterioration. But, you know, it's my opinion that if we don't do something about those, even the culverts that are stone, and it's more of a specific type of work than it is something about that, we're gonna lose those. And that's one of the only things that we have here as far as drawing people into the area. You know, I know there were some people talking about what do we need to do to get some of those bridges added to the historical list, the registry. I don't know if that could potentially help financially in the future or not, but they won't give money to the Historical Society, won't help preserve.
We had to close the Vino Bridge because there was no money from the Historical Society to give us for rehabilitation of that bridge.
Which one is that?
Straight north of Barnard. It's Headstead Pony Truss, I believe. It's been closed for several years, so it's probably never been on there.
Yeah, it was supposed to have historical value, but they didn't have any money to.
Yeah.
43? That was not a number.
Okay.
It's closed, yeah.
Put it on the historical, they said, yeah, they help maintain it and stuff, but then there wasn't any money.
I can't remember, it was a 150, 160 foot bridge that needed replumbed.
We were just talking a while ago about these other bridges like you were talking about, maintaining, that's what we worked on. Up there by Whackers, we got some others we got on the list to do. Is to try to maintain these rock walls and stuff and repair them and stuff. Like I say, we also got to do them besides worry about these other big bridges too, we gotta get those fixed, and that's what we've been working on, what we can. So,
Well, one of the ones that I brought up to you before is on, that'd be Union, right there at the curve, and the sidewalls.
Ash Grove,
Yeah, at Ash Grove, the sidewalls are only maybe 2 feet high, not even probably, but there's so much buildup and extra dirt being piled along. I mean, that needs-
dirt sealed in, the walls eroding.
no, I'm talking about on
Yeah,
top of the bridge, like the actual dirt road has been pushed and graded up against, so there's no differentiation between the surface of the road and the height of the bridge wall. It's just kind of been packed in, and, I mean, I guess my question.
Traffic will leave that.
My question is that extra weight, basically a negative thing as far as preserving your bridge? Do we need to be more diligent about cleaning up those edges, especially against the stone bridges that have the stone walls, sidewalls? There's a lot of compacted material that's just been pressed and and at some points it's almost flowing up over the edges of the sidewalls of the bridge. So do you think that's something?
The rock you're talking about, it's the railing along the side, so it'll
Hub guard.
top of the arch.
Mhm.
It probably
That really
stood
is.
taller at one point, and the farmers or the county, one or the other, have removed it for wide loads to be able to traverse it.
It doesn't look like there's anything missing from the top. I'm
There's
talking
a lot
about
of rock
the
down
road goes like
below.
this. But it's in the shape of a U when you go across the bridge. You're traveling across the bridge and it's kind of piled up against and pushed and packed in.
That's what I was just talking about, traffic, the way the traffic keeps pressing that out, because all it's holding is that laid up rock wall out there, so it keeps working out. to
So
that.
how would we get a county piece of equipment and or an operator to go about getting to the bridge and cleaning those sides off, scraping them and removing that excess material so that it's not packed up and then rolling over the sides?
Well, we can clean it off there, but it's gonna come back, or you're gonna hear a bunch of complaints. 'Cause I got a call, somebody followed a combine mount, their wheels were hanging over the edge. They're running up on that rail, but their combines are so wide now, instead of tractors, and they run up on them rock, and the wheels or duals hang out over the edge of the bridge, 'cause the bridges are narrow. If we dig that out, I already got a couple calls about wanting to haul gravel and build that up, fill that back up so they can drive across.
They
So-
want it filled, so instead of it
so
being
they-
U-shaped, they
so-
want it filled in at
so
the
there's
top
no
to level
wall
it
there.
across.
We want it level so they can drive their wide equipment across. So we can't, if we dig it down, then you're gonna get more calls. about
Well, I
that.
don't think adding any material to the top that would preserve the bridge in any better way. I think our job as the county is to preserve the bridge, not just to fill in material.
You could look at a load rating, because the state's gonna be load rating them, correct?
It's a double arch, so
Okay. And then typically, if there's too much dead load or too much material on it, they'll say, remove 2 inches and then you don't have to post it. So maybe when they load rate it and they say you don't have to
nothing's been done yet.
post it, you could see if they could add material to it and it would still be okay as far as a structural load rating.
But I've been told, now maybe you can correct me, that the more weight you put on an arch, the more it'll set up and hold. You can't hardly overload it.
Cause it'll
If
distribute
it's-
the weight out?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is what would be looked at in load rating.
The material of the rock tighter in there, so it's not gonna break away
Yeah,
to a certain point, so.
that would be a Terrence, our load rating guy, question for him.
Yeah.
He load rates these.
But I know
Well, that would be
engineer
good to
told me
know.
one
I mean,
time.
that
I
would
can
be,
ask him that.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll,
But there's definitely some deterioration in the retaining walls there on the, well, both sides really.
RS 190.
Yeah, but like I say, they just get knocked off and stuff, and yeah, dirt gets bladed over against it, and then gets packed there and stuff. Just natural.
I think you're right. I think you're right about that. More distributes it out.
Yeah.
I'll ask him,
Yeah,
but he's an expert on all
Well, that would, if that's possible, then that would also help, because then that outside pressure wouldn't be pushing out. You'd have
Yeah.
a flat surface, and you wouldn't be pushing those. I mean, when
Yeah,
you're running
those
up
still-
against it.
Those
Yeah,
rocks
we
out
still-
here are just setting on top of that arch, so they're not gonna, they're still gonna go out. They're not really tied to the arch there. Any push on them will just shove them off the top of it down in the creek.
They're just there to keep the material.
Just the whole,
So they're
Yeah.
originally they were a banister to keep you from sliding off the road when they first built them, so.
Right.
But now, like I say, they've got knocked off and down so they can get over with big equipment and stuff like that. What's happened to so many of them.
Got any other questions of Tanner? We're paying him by the hour to sit here.
Lump sum by the day, so you got me all day. It's your day, it's whatever you need to do. I was a little bit late this morning, I apologize for the ice. So,
It's a little slick out there.
yeah, so I live in Lindsborg, so I had to go over to Ellsworth to get a truck.
Short night.
We got one of these that doesn't have an end date on it. I don't know if we, the rest of these are all 20s, I think.
It's just put a date in there, I signed it.
Everything
Might
else
ask
is
if one
20,
wants
so.
it.
And you wanted me to call on this one
Yeah,
also?
Yeah.
I'll sign a contract for a month.
I'll get both of these individuals listed with this week.
Yeah,
Maybe you left it for us to fill in.
Possibly, but I'll visit with them.
I think so.
I'd move we enter into gravel agreements with Gebhardt's, Alms, Halad's, Jeremy Rosebrook.
Have a motion on the floor, do I have a second? I'll second. Is there any further discussion?
Is Rosebrook not on this list currently?
Yes,
That,
Oh,
right?
Hall Land or
Hall
Hall
Hill
Ranch or
Ranch,
whatever
Hall
it
Hill.
is.
All Hill.
Oh, okay, I see it.
There's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote, all those in favor say aye.
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 Oh, what did we decide to do about the tax payment?
I don't think we have decided yet. I think we're still discussing.
So are these already signed by landowners?
Yeah. I think they realize it would take a while to figure out exactly what we're gonna do. I don't think he had an issue with that. Didn't appear to me.
One of the big concerns I have on that is, well, the Murray Pit is one of them that we presently aren't making any
Specialized material.
mark on. And I did visit with the appraiser again about that.
And I don't.
Their philosophy, or the, evidently the way the regs work is that if there is a lease on the ground, then that indicates commercial property. Where I tried to say to her that if there was no payment during that year, there really wasn't any commercial activity going on, and all we were doing was holding the right to mine gravel if we needed to.
Correct.
That didn't go very far. Because she said that it all has to do with the fact that we have a lease on these farms.
What's the difference between that and the amount of mining that occurred from January 1 to January 1? on the area that they're
Right,
taxing.
the active, right.
That's what I'm a little bit confused on, because we're taxing.
Is it based on activity or open leases?
I
She,
don't know.
well, then they went on and I said, well, the determined area, and she said they had zeroed in on what they could see was active. Well, on that Murray pit, there can be nothing seen active. That's my problem. I don't have any problem paying some money for those leases that are going to be taxed as commercial property. But I have a problem with paying for something that we only are holding in case we want to, and these people are willing to enter into a lease, knowing that that's the only money they will get until that specialized material is needed. And I don't understand how that can be commercial property myself. So I don't know whether we need to pursue this a little bit more. I thought maybe I could talk to Truett a little about it too and see what his philosophy was on this. But it's going to be very difficult in the Murray pit to determine how much commercial property has, is my opinion. And I'm not, and I didn't ask, but I think we need a list of how much commercial property valued at $1,200 there is in each one of these pits. I want to see how much she thinks is commercial property. And she went on, and Rhonda went on and said that was valued at $1,200 an acre. And then she said the rest of it was $500, and I didn't quite understand that. And after I got home, I got to thinking about this, and that's when I thought, well, now wait a minute, I have some more questions about that. But
Was it pasture or cropland?
It's all pasture.
I don't know. That's just what she said. I didn't question her on. That's just what she said. So.
When she classifies it as commercial, every property is commercial, the same dollar amount, $1,200.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing.
Yeah. And so then but I don't know where the $500 came in.
That's for
Did
the
you
valuation,
understand?
and then what is the commercial rate, 11.5?
The rest of it, she said, was at 500. So I
Oh,
don't know.
residential's 11.5.
I'm sorry.
And the ag land is also 25, but the valuation's
No.
different.
Not necessarily, because it depends on whether it's improvements or it's land, but I don't remember which one is which, but.
I think
But the
ag-
pasture land is the same as the residential, right? Farm use, it's called, or something.
Percentage, but you gotta remember you're talking about,
Everybody's valuation can be different depending on the sale
yeah, you're
price.
talking about land use tax, which, with land use tax figured in, tax on grass is somewhere around $1.90 an acre. Because it's only valued at,
You're asking about the assessment, you're talking about the value, there's two different things.
Right, but they have to be combined to get your actual number from the person. But what you're saying is no matter who it is, no matter what pit it is, once it becomes commercial, it's valued at $1,200 an acre.
If that's the dollar amount that she said, because she told me it doesn't really matter whether it was pasture or crop, if it's considered commercial property, it's got the same value.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're all valued the
I
same.
was thinking it was $1,000, but if she told you.
Yeah, I think she said
don't know what she said.
for tax purposes, grass is somewhere around $38, $39 an acre, and crops somewhere around $280 an acre, the valuation, so.
But I guess going on with what I think, I could see some value in making payments for pre-gravel, like we talked about, paying up front for some gravel every year. Because I think we're going to be pulling for most of those. But there are a couple pits in this bunch that I have a real problem. I don't know how you're going to figure that, because I don't think we've hauled out of Murray's for 5 years probably.
We've taken loads out.
Yeah.
Took out maybe a half a dozen loads or a little better last year when it was muddy, and put in
Yeah.
some mud holes.
But yeah,
Just
so I
things like
guess,
that.
Well, you won't take much out of there unless we crush it right.
When that's levied, where are those allocated? That commercial levy, when those funds are levied, where are they deposited, basically?
It depends on the tax unit that they're in as to how it's divided up. So it depends on each and individual tax unit, because a tax unit comprises of all of the entities that have taxing authority. So I can't give you a straight answer on that, because it could be 298, it could be 299, depending on where it's at. It could be the county and everything that's taxed within the county. It could be include a watershed, and it could include a cemetery district, a fire district. I mean, that's an open-ended question. Because it's taxed.
Yeah,
by
just based on
every
location,
entity.
just
Yeah.
based on location, yes.
Everyone is gonna get at least a state, a county tax, a school district tax, depending on which school district, and a fire district, an extension district.
But I'm just saying, there's no way for the highway department to recuperate that money that they are, like, we can't, we basically can't cover the bill, because there's no way to recuperate that money from,
It's a
Those from
percentage
that
of it,
tax.
I guess, but.
well, yeah, a minuscule percent, so, well, I shouldn't say that, of the county portion is 40-some%, but, or 40%, but, I mean, are you suggesting that we pay an even amount
That's what I would suggest.
across the board?
I would say we pay everybody the same.
But the problem with that is someone's active area that's large, we may not cover that amount if we're not
That's
gonna
true.
draw
We may
from
not.
there.
We may not.
And then, an inactive area is
And
gonna make
we may pay a
money
lot
on that.
more, yes. But we have to treat them the same, I think.
And the price for gravel per yard that's being removed kind of is supposed to help offset their expenses.
Yeah.
But unless.
But
like-
that wasn't-
Like the Murray pit, unless we take a crusher in there and crush, it's gonna sit there for 4 or 5 years and never have anything taken out of it. You know, how many years ago did we crush at the Whacker pit? 5 or 6?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'd say at least that.
Well, got anything
Really,
else?
most of the time, the active area shouldn't change all that much.
Mhm.
Should, maybe a half acre if it's at most.
And then it's either, as it expands, it's gonna decrease the other way. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
so I mean, you know, there's,
Try to keep our
Start here, it's
footprint.
gonna
the
move
footprint's
over
gonna be
here.
about the same size.
You guys got anything else?
Are we ready to start utilizing the Mobile 311 program with inputting road issues, or, I mean, it'd be nice to get some activity going there before the rain starts, cause it's gonna start.
Working on what we can. When the ground's froze like that, we can't put that back in around a pipe or anything. They worked on some pipe, but there's stuff like that. They've been working on trees and cutting brush. Like I say, we put in a couple, 3 pipes that weren't kind of thawed out and the ground wasn't froze and got them in. There's only so much we can do depending on what the weather will. We can't put frozen ground in back around.
Okay, well, I guess we're done with you guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Got
Go
any
stick
questions,
Tanner
just-
under some bridges and have him figure out where we're at here.
Yeah, if you guys got any questions, just holler. We're in Ellsworth, so hopefully far from here.
Alexis, you got something for us today? You got
Yes.
something, Don?
Since you guys approved to take the ambulance out of the capital improvement fund, here's
We're
the
gonna-
amendment for the capital
Amend
improvement
it.
fund.
Okay.
So there's a copy for each of you, and then this is an original, I just need one back, but. to see all of the interest letters? I mean, I know that you want to see them, but, for the boards, or do you want me to make a listing first of what everybody's interested in and group them by
How many do we
that?
have?
I would say probably 15, but I didn't keep track, so maybe 20, 15.
I think you need to provide us a list, Don, so we kind of have an idea of what we're looking at.
Okay.
And probably, I guess you always do provide a list of who we need to reappoint or who wants
Yeah,
appointed.
who's
Have we
not.
heard from all of the appointees?
I don't believe so. I sent them all a letter letting them know that you were
Yeah.
gonna put place on it.
What did we put on that, the February 15th?
Yeah, I think most of the interest is preservation board, so.
I guess
There are some from others.
I wonder, one of my suggestions would be the ones that we could reappoint, that if they haven't contacted us, maybe we ought to check in with them
Okay. How
with a
about
phone call.
How about I do this? I will do a listing of everybody that has sent a letter and what board. And then I'll attach the listing from that, and you guys can contact the people
Yep.
that are in your respective districts.
That's
That'd be
fine.
fine.
Fine, we've done that in the past. That'll work.
And I'll try to get that done this afternoon and email it out to you
Yeah, okay.
guys, so you have some time.
Thanks, Don.
I would move to amend the, multi-year improvement plan to include the ambulance resolution. The original was resolution 99-35.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. You want one signed or all of them, Don?
Just one.
All right.
Okay, Alexis, you say you do have something you want to talk about?
Yes. I do think we need to follow up on the mobile 311. I noticed, I don't think Bob understood my question, but Michael didn't respond. You know, we made the decision to utilize that program so that we can be tracking issues and kind of having a detailed map, and we haven't seen it yet in action. I mean, it's been at least 6 months. I would say that if someone isn't capable of interpreting and implementing a new technology like that, when it was their own suggestion, you know, we need to look at what the issue is, what the holdup is. So I'm not sure why there would be such a problem in understanding that or getting it up and ready to be utilized.
I think probably what Bob was referring to was that he hadn't had an opportunity to work on the projects that they brought in that day that were listed on the.
Yeah, I think he just didn't. I think he just didn't hear my question.
Yeah.
But I know Michael did. But he chose not to answer. So I'm just wondering what would be the holdup if that's an issue. You know, do we need to suggest some training for him? I mean, I think he brought the program to the table. I think it should be more than, ready after months and months of preparation work. And we're paying a pretty penny to have all of the equipment, the internet access, we're coming into a season where it would be very helpful to keep things organized. That would also be a great tool for us to do some ADTs, because there will be people that know whether or not they travel these particular routes where we don't have an actual count. No interest in knowing that our services and what we're paying for are going to be utilized and accessible?
They brought in a deal here 3 or 4 weeks ago. I assume they can bring in another printout that shows the input that they've got so far.
Well,
But I think that's what Bob was, like I say, I think that's what Bob was trying to refer to, that they couldn't go out and work on some of those deals because of the frozen ground and stuff.
that has nothing to do with making markers and inputting the information that we have available.
No, that's not what I meant. I meant that, I think Bob meant, what he was saying was that they hadn't had a chance to go out and fix any of those places because of the frozen ground and the weather.
The ones that were already on the list.
Yeah, I think that's what he was trying
I
to
see what
say.
you're saying. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the public access, our access to the program. I mean, that was the whole incentive. That's that is the company's selling point, that it's an all-inclusive type program, so that whatever is going on, you know, we have a large land area to cover, that it's accessible, you know, at your fingertips instead of having to actually physically be out there. So, you know, I haven't put any miles on lately to be doing things like that, but we haven't really had that kind of weather. I haven't had those types of complaints, but I'm sure that's going to be happening. And we do need to pinpoint some of these areas that need more attention.
Yeah, it'll rain someday, I hope. It'll probably rain won't stop.
Dawn, can we get a copy of Katie Lyons' letter to the highway department?
I don't have it. You guys have
No,
it.
if
so
I've got it
somebody
with me or
needs to
not.
give me a copy. That would be
Took
happy.
some stuff out of here the other day and I don't remember if it was. If I don't have it here, I have it at home.
Me too, but I think I do have it. I just don't, I haven't looked at it again.
I could bring it next week.
I have it right here.
Yeah. He found it, did you?
Yeah, I have mine too, but yeah, that's good. I would also like to have an evening meeting. For me, it would be most helpful to have it at the end of the month. So I assume are we having an extra meeting next week, or are we just having, it's 2 days, so the 26th is Monday and the 28th is the last day of the month on Wednesday.
You probably won't be able to get it done before Wednesday.
So I move to have the end of the month meeting, February 28th, Wednesday, February 28th. At 7 p.m.
Have a motion on the floor, do I have a second? Motion dies without the second.
Okay. I move to seek the opinion of the Governmental Ethics Commission on a potential violation of KSA 75-4301A and KSA 75-4304 by Lincoln County Attorney to inquire what the Lincoln County Commission responsibility is to remedy this problem.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Motion dies for lack of a second.
Did either of you two commissioners read the handout that was given to us by Norman Mantle last meeting?
Yeah, I read it when Mr., I don't know what his name is, the Straw House man gave it to us 4 or 5 months ago.
So you've read it twice now?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
So you don't feel that it specifically declares your obligation to report activities that aren't in line with what we know to be protocol or procedurally in line?
I don't feel that there is anything wrong, so.
You don't feel, but it's not about feelings, it's about what's going on. What's going on is we have an elected position contracting with their private business, just like if you or I or anybody else contracted our private business to the county. It's.
Don't believe the county attorney contracted anything. The county commissioners made the decision to employ the Ohio law firm to do our secretarial work for the county attorney.
Actually, it's right in the minutes that the request came from the county attorney. It's in our own minutes.
But she did not make the decision.
It doesn't matter. The statute says that you can't be part of the negotiation, you can't be part of the discussion, you can't be part of anything that has to do with the agreement. And the request came directly from her, and you made the request and approved it with her in that same setting. It specifically says that you have to abstain from any activity regarding that. You didn't appoint that law firm, you were requested by the attorney and approved the request. I move to seek Attorney General opinion on KSA 75-4301A and 75-4304.
Motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'm not done with, I'm just waiting for Dawn to catch
Oh.
up.
You do it every week.
To
Maybe you
help-
can just write it out for her and just hand it to her.
To help
That way I'll
Lincoln
read it
County
correctly.
establish the proper procedure for elected officials to collect pay for their services.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I guess my question would be, when are either of you going to bring anything to the table for discussion?
I guess when I have something that I feel like I need to bring to the table for discussion, I will.
Well, I've been here for over a year and it hasn't happened, so I'm just wondering how many times
Well, what do you
in
bring
any
the
given
same
year.
4 motions every week for discussion?
Right, all issues that have never been addressed. So of course
They've been
I'm going.
addressed.
No, they have not been addressed.
Every week for the last year.
If you weren't fearful of finding